Welcome back to the United Pubcast. And Larry, I would say good morning about 5 minutes ago, but I'm unable to say that at the moment because it is turned out to be quite a frustrating morning here in Sydney, obviously evening in the UK. I don't know where to start. I think we'll have a bit of a level-headed look at it a little bit later in the day and maybe even tomorrow after a bit of a sleep. This one definitely does sting. I think when you weigh up everything in regards to the season, a draw away at Palace after how many wins we've had, you think, okay, it is what it is. But as things stand, that one stings, and I don't know what more. The late goal, which we've obviously conceded, that makes us drop points, obviously, but obviously a few minutes before that, everyone's worst fears in CASEMIRO did get his yellow card. So what was 10 minutes away from being an absolute professional job at Crystal Palace, I think that's what title winning teams are made of. We get a bit of a crash back down to reality and frustrating morning.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Look, it's definitely one that United let slip away. And the title of the video says all for nothing, and we absolutely will rip into why it is all for nothing, though I do think it is quite clear and obvious. But look, the obvious one, just starting with an overall view on the performance, it was lackluster. I didn't think, like you said, it looked like it was on track to being a professional performance. But in saying that, I just thought the United looked tired. I expected a more rotated side from Ten Hag, and I thought I gotta put up the manager. I know we'll rip into the actual game and what this means, but just when I saw the starting 11, I thought it reeked of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the sense he chose his strongest side, which I understand, but considering there was a massive game to come on the weekend, I thought it was the wrong choice, and it really did backfire.
Well, we'll get into that. I'll just say good day to a few in the live chat box. Good to see. What a poor result. Definitely feels like, I think looking back at the end of the season, we'll probably look at it is what it is. So I think Arsenal, who they ever lost to or draw to earlier in this season, like that, you can drop points sometimes away from home. And Scott, speaking of Arsenal, once in my life, I wanted Arsenal to win a match, and you do that. Obviously, make sure you stay tuned. It's a football thing. Plenty of Arsenal, Man United content coming in the next couple of days. We talk about that, Larry, and I'm saying 5 minutes to full time, we're talking a professional performance, and we're saying Erik Ten Hag got it completely right. And here we are saying he's got it wrong. No, I'm not saying he's got it wrong, but obviously sort of backfired. And I'm thinking those are the fine margins. And look, I think it is what it is in terms of a 1-1 draw. Okay, fair enough. You can debate to the cows come home who deserved to win. And I'm not blaming the referee for the performance because we conceded the goal. We didn't score enough goals. Ultimately, though, it's a criminal decision. It's a penalty. And the reason it's a criminal decision is because VAR knows it's a penalty. They understand it's a penalty, and they have chosen not to give it because of the controversy last week. Clear as day. They know it's a penalty. It's clear as day. And they have said, well, there was a bit of controversy over last week. That goal shouldn't have stood against Manchester City. We won't give this penalty. We'll stand by a referee. Even though they know that they 100% need to overturn it. In my opinion, Larry, that's unprofessional. That's criminal. And I'm not calling for an investigation or anything, but it's clear as day that's what's happened.
Look, I agree with you. I thought it was a penalty, and I messaged you right away to express my frustrations. Look, it was a poor decision. In saying that, I'm gonna fall short of blaming the referee. I thought
no, I'm not blaming the ref. I'm just saying if that's 2-0, CASEMIRO comes off, and we see the game out 2-0, and just what could have been if the referees did their job.
I understand, and I agree with you, right? And in the grand scheme of things, that might come back to bite. We said with the Manchester City game, and particularly the controversy surrounding Bruno Fernandes's goal, these things kind of balance out over the season. Maybe United got their dose worth in this game. It's just one of those, right? But in saying that, I think we can all agree that United just were not up to scratch today. I thought it was a really poor performance. I do have a point to make on Marcus Rashford, and I will get into that. But overall, United weren't good enough, and I think the result reflects the balance of the game.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. It stings. I thought this talking about it would sort of help things, but it's making things feel worse. But do let us know how you're feeling in the live chat. And please do try and cheer us up by leaving a like on the video. Emad here. It's not that bad a result considering we snapped our hands off getting a draw with City. Yeah, look, ultimately, I said at the start, if we could get 4 points from these next two games, in my opinion, I'll take the draw against Palace and a win against Arsenal. Now, obviously, the win against Arsenal is going to be far harder now without CASEMIRO. But I think cast your mind back to when we beat Arsenal earlier in the season. I think we did it with McTominay and Eriksen. Now, is that going to do it away at the Emirates? Who knows? But we can go to win at Arsenal without CASEMIRO. We have played away at Arsenal before without him in one football match. It's a possibility. Obviously, make things tough. But back to the starting 11. Ultimately, it's full strength. Like in regards to, Martial was available. There's a debate around Weghorst and Martial, but we have no information in regards to
I think Martial was injured. That he wasn't even on
the bench. But in regards to who's available, you have to say that is full strength.
Yeah. All right. I know it's his first game. I want to look. Can I just say, on the United fan, I know. I know I defend Martial a lot. Don't tell me our football looked better with that 6'6" giant up front. It didn't. I think when you always say you can notice the quality of a player when he's not on the pitch. Is Martial scoring goals at the moment? No. If there was a more elite striker, would I replace him? Yeah, I would. But don't tell me our football looks better with that giant up front. It doesn't, because Martial links the play 10 times better than he does. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely not disagreeing. That's not a dig about Weghorst for me, or even for you. And Martial, obviously, some of our best football, all of our
You
best
say
football
that,
this
Tom.
season.
Go on Twitter. You'll be amazed how many people were saying, "Oh yeah, he's definitely going to start over Martial. He's been signed to replace Martial." Come on.
Well, if he brings goals, he will.
I think you got to bring more than that. I think that's very clear from everything Ten Hag said. It's not just about goals. It's the way you complement the team. Martial complements the team, and I actually thought United didn't perform well today, and a part of that was I felt Weghorst up front didn't have the football capability to link the play up the way Martial did. I almost felt like we were You know what it reminded me of? The way we were playing when Ronaldo was on the pitch. It felt like we were playing to the wide areas and then trying to get a cross in to look for the big guy.
Yeah, it's one of those. If that header he gets it, if that drops in under the crossbar, thinking what a tactic, what a player is, and I think it's one of those ones in terms of okay, who's going to play fit, Martial or Weghorst? I think you answer your own question there. And Martial, the box says it here. Martial never fit at the moment. Weghorst is going to play because we can't rely on Martial, and that's I hate to say that, but that is simply just a scientific fact. If Martial isn't available for selection, he's not going to be selected, and that is where Weghorst will potentially sort of see more minutes than the Frenchman. But obviously, the better football will come with Martial. Now, sometimes even if Martial was playing away at Crystal Palace, it's a tough game. It's physical. It's tight in there. So sometimes you're not going to get the performance there. It's easy in hindsight to say that. It is one of those things. It'll be interesting to see his fitness availability in regards to Arsenal, because obviously you do want to sort of provide your best footballers there. I'm not sure Weghorst is too suited to be playing against Arsenal in terms of the way that game is going to play out. But it will be interesting. Speaking of Arsenal, Scott's here, so I'll bring up a lot of his chats because a lot of our direction will stem towards the weekend. Weghorst drew two defenders away to open up the space of Bruno, and it was his first match. A bit reactionary. Martial hasn't been able to consistently stay fit.
Martial does the same thing, right? And Scott, with all due respect, and I agree with you, he absolutely does attract the defenders. We've seen other goals this season. Marcus Rashford, for example, has benefited from Martial's movement up top. I can't actually think of the goal off the top of my head. It was in the last few games. There was movement from Martial, which created the space. It might have been Eriksen's goal that Eriksen scored a couple weeks ago. Anyway, Martial has great movement. And I think, yes, Weghorst deserves credit for his movement for Bruno's goal. But he doesn't add anything for me that Martial doesn't, other than being obviously a more physical presence, someone that you expect to get on the end of headers. Martial's still first choice for me.
Yeah, well, his first choice when he's available, and we'll see on Saturday if he's first choice or not. Ambition, that free kick reminds me of Beckham. Look, fair play to the kid. It was a hell of a free kick.
It was a great free kick. I don't know about Beckham had the whip, didn't he? It was more of a left foot power shot. Good on him, though. Friggin' hell of a finish. De Gea could do nothing there. I'm not going to blame the goalkeeper. It was a great free kick.
We'll get into 3-2-1s. I think David De Gea comes into my 3-2-1s, especially he would be up for 3 points if we won the game in terms of some key saves. But in terms of, look, the elephant in the room, Casemiro got a yellow card. As I said, we're 5 minutes away from being at the right call, and Casemiro sort of providing a good performance. Ultimately,
and it was for fuck all.
Yeah, so he's gone past him, and ultimately he's lucky he didn't get sent off. It was quite a bad tackle by Casemiro. And it's one of those ones. Oh, no, it was almost a red card. That's what I'm saying. So, look, do you play? I don't place any blame on Casemiro or Erik ten Hag. It is one of those things like, yes, you can, in hindsight, say, okay, it was the wrong decision. Ultimately, I come back to not blame the referee, but if that given a penalty, and VAR knows it's a penalty, that's what frustrates me. They know they should overturn it, but they know last week the controversy, they're trying to even things out. And ultimately, that goes 2-0. Erik ten Hag brings Fred straight on for Casemiro, and you think, what could have been? But ultimately, that's not the case. Casemiro gets booked. Just what are your thoughts, just in hindsight, looking back in terms of right, wrong decision?
I have to put a bit of blame at Ten Hag, to be honest. And look, this isn't me saying Ten Hag out or anything like that, right? He's made mistakes this season and he's learned from them. And I thought it was the wrong call. When I saw McTominay lining up to come onto the pitch, you could have, if you told me put your house on him replacing Casemiro, I would say, yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to come on for Casemiro. And then he comes on for the big horse up front. And I thought that was the wrong decision. I think a 1-0 up, you got to back your players to get the job done. And I think he should have backed McTominay there, considering he started the season really well and was keeping Casemiro out. Now, I know the Scotsman hasn't been performing to that level as of late, but back your players. And I thought it was the wrong call. Casemiro, whether we were 2-0 up or 1-0 up, I think Casemiro makes that tackle because he's that kind of player, right? I don't blame Casemiro because if he lets him in, it's 50-50. He gets the shot in the right place, it's a goal. So you can't blame Casemiro there. He does what he has to do to get the result for the team. Unfortunately, it's not the result we wanted. I think Ten Hag, if he had his time again, would have pulled him off earlier.
Yeah, no, look, it's one of those. Look, this stings. So please do leave a like on the videos. Over 50 or 60 of you in the chat. Please do try and cheer us up. And it's one of those ones. Why do you think that with the sluggishness? We'll get into 3-2-1s in a little bit. So I'm looking forward to getting yours and everyone's opinion in the live chat. The sluggishness and it wasn't a vintage Manchester or Eric Ten Hag performance. Was it the players are tired off the sort of the high off the derby, or were the players who, let's say, it was full strength, so 90% of those players are going to play against Arsenal, was an eye on Arsenal? Where do you sort of lay the blame in regards to it not being sort of a great performance, or was it just a case of, look, it's professional football, it's one of those days, Crystal Palace turned up and some games are hard?
I think I'll start with what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Tom. He needed to rotate more. I think, like, if you look at the amount of work Rashford got through, he had a bit of an injury against Manchester City, and he starts again. That whole starting 11, well, who didn't play? I think Martinez didn't start against City. Everyone else on that pitch started the game against Manchester City, except Martinez and Vovekos and Anthony. It's not enough. Like he's got to rotate more. Sorry, I just.
Is this not to criticize? It's on the furthest thing from criticizing Eric Ten Hag. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. He's our man of the season, 100%. But is he showing a little bit of not like Solskjaer? I know you mentioned Solskjaer in regards to always going full strength, but in this isolated incident, and not over the course of the season, I think there has been good rotation. But in this isolated incident, in between Manchester derby and the Arsenal match, he hasn't placed enough trust. Now, you could say that he shouldn't be placing the trust because the squad isn't good enough. But really, should he have sort of placed a bit more trust in his squad players for this one?
Emad's got it here. Congestion of games, lack of rotation, lack of quality depth. Spot on. I understand because there's a lack of quality depth. So then you have to say, all right, maybe he's struggling to back his players 100%. But we've seen this group of players get the job done. We saw Fred come in with a great performance. Now, granted, Palace is a different game. But in the second half, Palace were coming onto United. And I thought their energy, they out-enthused Manchester United. If you're getting out-enthused, then we need to get Fred onto the pitch because Fred brings energy. And I just thought that's where we got it wrong. Rashford, can I say, I'm not going to be critical. He's been fantastic for Manchester United. And all the bit of credit he's received over the last few weeks, granted, he doesn't run on the pitch and it frustrates the hell out of me. He doesn't work hard enough at times.
Well, I just saw this comment.
Because you know I'm right. He doesn't work hard enough for the team.
Well, no, look, I've been saying that for about 3 years in terms of Marcus Rashford's work rate, and that's a different debate in regards to criticism and view of him as a player. But I just see two comments here from Hulk Hogan. Good to see you, Hulk. Hope all is well. Saying Rashford works, which I agree, and that's not to be critical of Rashford, and I don't think Hulk is there. It's just a fact he wasn't at it today. But also on the flip side of things, on the other side of the field, it says Anthony doesn't give 100%. I disagree. Now value 100% in terms of what that is and isolated incidents. But I think Anthony gets through a hell of a lot of work, and I think that is why Eric Ten Hag picks him so much.
Yeah, agree 100. Look, Anthony, it's not about his effort. His effort is always there. It's more about he needs to just get he needs to be able to get the football right. He needs
maybe his effort up here, maybe his effort in concentration and everything, but his physical output, I think, is 100% there. Agreed. But we'll get into 3-2-1s. So in the live chat, do get your thoughts in regards to who gets your 3-2-1 votes for today. Box here, we will struggle too many games. Unfortunately, we know deep down this was, and we're not out of a title race or anything, or we're not out of a potential successful season. It's one of those things. We've dropped points away at Crystal Palace. We've had far worse results this season, or we'll have worse results than this later on this season. So it is one of those things. We do have to man up, take it, and move on. But 3-2-1s, Larry, this is an interesting one because we would have been having a very positive discussion in regards to match-winning goals and match-winning saves. Ultimately, it's a draw. I don't know. I'm starting to think potentially, just in regards to the way the midfield sort of played out a little bit, I would be looking at potentially Christian Eriksen. In my opinion, someone could say he was the worst on the field. For me, I just thought Casemiro was a little bit sloppy as well. Maybe lets himself down with the yellow card. A pivotal role in Bruno Fernandez's goal. Now, Bruno has got the goal, 100%. David De Gea with some big saves. I thought Luke Shaw. Who gave away the free kick for the goal, do we know? Don't tell me it was McTominay.
I can't remember.
In the live chat, let us know who gave away the free kick because I might struggle to give them points. But look, I think David De Gea had some big saves, and then I'll be looking at Christian Eriksen as well in regards to the
I
outfield
got one
players.
for
So
you. I got
talk
one
to me.
for you. Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Do you
Yeah,
see his
very
tackle at
good.
the end? He
Very
was
good again.
excellent today.
Well,
Got
yeah, at the
forward.
end as well.
That tackle on Zaha, no other play. If that was Diogo Dalot, that's a goal. I promise you.
Yeah. Emad here, Luke Shaw gave it away. So, yeah, okay, Luke Shaw's out of running for points. And I thought Luke Shaw was fine, but it is one of those. So, Aaron Wan-Bissaka comes back in that discussion for me.
3
Rob,
points.
yeah,
Comfortably
massive at the
Wan-Bissaka.
end.
I thought it was easily the best.
Emad here, David De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, and Eriksen. Yeah, my line of thinking after hearing people there, I would have to potentially agree with Emad there. Rob as well saying David De Gea for man of the match. So, do you want to throw any more shouts there? In regards to, obviously, Bruno got a goal. We're 5 minutes away from a match-winning goal, so maybe he's a little bit hard done by. But anyone else sort of in with a bit of a shout?
I thought Bruno was all right.
I like those three. I like those three: David De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, and Christian Eriksen.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Definitely those three, whatever order. I mean, personally, I'd go Wan-Bissaka man of the match, but I'm not going to argue with you if you're saying De Gea.
Yeah, no, look, we'll go that. Big saves, especially that first one.
Bruno's goal, like moments before Bruno's goal.
You know the angle we had. I felt sick when the ball left the striker's foot. I was like, "Oh, it's a goal," and then he just somehow gets his hand on it. And that ultimately, that's it's not what you watch football for, but it does give you a reminder of sort of the emotional roller coaster you can have in short spells. But George here, David De Gea for 3, Wan-Bissaka for 2, and the kid who got a selfie with Casemiro. I'm sure that selfie that stopped all momentum. That bloody was he a kid or an adult? I thought he was an adult, but I don't know, might be a kid. But Larry, disappointing 1-1 draw. We move on. Arsenal on the weekend. I'm sure we'll have plenty of chats on the podcast before that. But as things sort of very stinging at the moment, sum up your thoughts ahead of the weekend.
Not confident. Rashford for me, and I think this has kind of come up in our conversations. Like we've been praising him because he absolutely deserves it. But you saw today the limitations to his game. I think when he's red hot, when he gets in behind, he's ruthless. But I think his qualities in tight areas isn't quite there, just in terms of like the elite level. The biggest concern I have for United, and something that we'll really need to fix up on, one of Anthony or Sancho need to get firing, because they're the players who in tight areas can make a difference. One-on-one can beat players. I know Garnacho's been doing it, but he's a young kid. I think that's not fair. One of those two players needs to have a big performance against Arsenal, because I don't know where. I think just against a side like them, we're going to need a bit of brilliance. And I just, if you keep Rashford quiet, I don't know where the brilliance is going to come from at the moment.
Yeah, no, look, it's hard to argue with that. Rob is saying it's tough today. It's going to be a rough day. But also Rashford just thinking about himself today and the record, not the team. Maybe a little bit harsh, but I did feel that as well in the emotional sort of part of the game. I did feel like that. Whether that was the case, only Rashford knows there. But ultimately, we do have to afford him a bit of leeway in regards to what he has done over recent weeks. So fingers crossed this is a bit of a blip for Marcus Rashford, get his head down next couple of days, recover and come out firing against Arsenal, because we will need him. Now, speaking of Arsenal, I'm sure we'll do plenty of previews. Midfield 3 against Arsenal. CASEMIRO is not part of it. Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Tom. It'll be interesting to see what Ten Hag does. We've seen him be flexible at times, and like we saw in the Manchester game, I wonder if he'll do anything different. I'm not sure.
McTominay or Fred? Seeing McTominay was the first on this one. Now, Fred was obviously on a yellow as well coming on, but I'm just thinking McTominay and Eriksen did start against Arsenal previously. We did beat them, and I know Arsenal fans say, they deserved to win. Arsenal played well. United deserved to win the match. So I'm just thinking like that was a different time. The season has gone on. They're in different form. Arsenal are in different form, of course. But my money will still say Fred and Eriksen, but I think there's maybe a shout away from home.
Fred and Eriksen as a partnership worries me. Like Eriksen, I like him. He's obviously very intelligent, but I don't think he's a natural defender in terms of his positioning in the midfield. And Fred's attributes are about energy and getting in and around. And Fred's best football against Manchester City came because he's got Casemiro behind him to tell him where to be and what to do.
Tell you what, there was a shout before the Casemiro yellow card, before we were doing team selections for Palace and then looking ahead to Arsenal. Well, how's the selection going to interact with each other? And a huge part of it, I think everyone's thinking was, okay, we'll play Bruno on the right against Arsenal. Now Casemiro's out. I think everyone's thinking, no, Bruno's going to play in the middle. Is there a case, McTominay and Fred, with Eriksen at 10 and Bruno still playing on the right.
Absolutely. I think that's a great chance of happening. I know Fred and McTominay was frustrating for people, but if you're having a one-off game against an Arsenal where you're not going to have the majority of the ball, it could work. And we've seen that pairing get big results in years past. So, look, obviously it's not the most attractive midfield partnership you've ever seen, but it can get the job done. So since Casemiro is not there, that might actually be the most sensible thing to do. Like I said, I just think in terms of positional play, I don't think Eriksen and Fred is the right way to go. I don't know who's going to be the one to tell others where to go between that pair. So, if you're going to go with, if Eriksen is a must and he needs to play deep, then I'd be going McTominay next to him. But what you're saying is right. I think given the form of Anthony, given we'll probably look to get him on the counter, put Bruno on the right, and I'd probably look to go Fred McTominay in the pivot and maybe put Eriksen in the 10.
Be fascinating. I'm sure our opinions will change 20 times before kickoff, but make sure you are subscribed for all your sort of previews with Arsenal content. Now, two things, Larry, before we do wrap up in regards to, I forget my first point, in regards to back four. Back four stays the same?
I could see Luke Shaw going back to fullback. Back to centre back, and I could see
dropping Martinez.
I thought he was good today, but I feel it's still at the moment.
Yeah, and look, it's a definite shout.
I wouldn't be upset if Martinez plays, but I think look at what Shaw did against the best team in the world. I think that partnership probably gives you a bit. Oh, here's a shout. Just came to me. Martinez in the 6.
I think it says here, I think George brought up a little bit earlier, alluded to it, and say George but Casemiro got their first, should have buried. I think in regards to, actually I might have missed that, a comment earlier about Martinez at the 6 as well. The discussion has moved on to that yellow card. Yeah, Martinez is a shout there. I'd be shocked with that. And ultimately, Luke Shaw doesn't have to defend against Erling Haaland against Arsenal. He has to defend against Eddie and Nketiah playing in the middle. Now, that's not saying Nketiah is not capable of a goal, and Arsenal aren't deservedly top, and they're a good team, obviously, but different threats. I think whoever we put in the back four is quite comfortable. I think it's maybe the midfield where that is our potential struggle, which will put strain on the back four, not so much that selection. Now, just one thing here from Emad Larry before we do wrap up. I'm sure we have many Marcus Rashford debates, but it is interesting as you're talking about him, and I agree 100% with those limitations. No one agrees more than me. But here we are, a couple of weeks ago, we're having a discussion in regards to his world-class, one subpar performance against Crystal Palace. And we think, well, hang on, look at all these limitations. I'm thinking that therein lies the answer
when he's at his best, he's got world-class attributes. And that means he's world-class when he's at his best. And I do maintain that. But the thing that's always been in the back of my head is in tight areas, he's not the most natural dribbler. I don't think he's got the close control of the best players to beat players when you're talking about constriction, compact defenses. That's not to say he's not brilliant. Of course, he's got world-class qualities, but world-class qualities when he's got the space to do what he can do. As we saw today in tighter areas, touch gets a bit heavy, ball bounces a bit too much. That's not to be critical. It's just he's good what he's good at, and he's.
I'm not sure what state the pitch was in. I saw a lot of passes, even from like Casemiro and Varane. A lot of passes were bouncing. I'm not sure what the state of the pitch.
Fatigue.
No, but the pitch as well. Like some are in one beside, some of his touches just not on carpet. Some of his touches bounce for God's sake. But even he was controlling the ball, and the ball's up around his hip. And I think, what's happened here? So I don't think the pitch was in any, but it's the same for both teams. So look, no complaints. I think the referee has not so much the referee, but VAR has a lot to answer for in regards to not awarding that penalty. They definitely know it is a penalty. That's a shame. But ultimately, no complaints in regards to the result. Here.
Maybe the selfishness from Rashford. I think he just wanted us. He was just thinking about the goals.
Yeah, well, if you're in goal scoring form, you're allowed that. But you do need to pay the price of actually scoring the goal. So it is one of those things. Look, we've been in such a good run. What is it? 9 wins in a row, was it?
9 wins on the row. The last time we won 10, I think, was in 2008 or 2009. So it's been a good.
I think it was the 10-11 season, or the 08-09. But yeah, back in Australia's first when we won a title. So look, it is one of those things. We've drawn away at Palace. Sometimes we've lost there. So it's not the end of the world. I have to move on and get a result against Arsenal. So fingers crossed with that. And make sure you are, as I said, we might do a video later today when sort of things are calmed down, and we'll sort of have a bit of a closer look and a bit of a more detailed look ahead to Arsenal. So make sure you are subscribed. We're edging close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you aren't subscribed, please do hit that button. Please do leave a like to cheer us up, because we're we're off to work now, and it's a bit of a tricky day today. Obviously, the weather does resemble a bit of Manchester rain. So back to reality for us, Larry.
Absolutely. I'm off to work to cry. So spare a thought for me, ladies and gents.
No, like everyone. But until then, hopefully your day is okay, and we'll chat a little bit later. Until then, have a good one. Leave a like on the video. What's that? I'll comment here. I'm not reading any of those comments. It's in Spanish or Portuguese. I don't even know what he's saying. No. Email. I agree with you, Isaac. Yeah. A good way to finish the pod. Until then, we'll chat to you. Cheers.
Oh, cheers.